Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I was just teasing the kids. Even I wrote notes out a little bit, at least to prompt my thinking. But I do occasionally improv too, Dalton, so I can feel you on that a little bit. As you can see, we have fantastic kids in our school district, and I'm just so proud to be the superintendent there. If you think that the kids you've seen the first half of the school year have been great, just wait till you get to see the other half. I had the pleasure of meeting with your award recipients for February through the rest of the year yesterday, actually, and they were just a joy and a delight. So you have something to really look forward to in the upcoming meetings. So I just thought it would be beneficial before I talk a little bit about the district is just to introduce myself a little bit. I know I've been in the district now just about 4 years, believe it or not. 3 of those I've been serving in the capacity as the superintendent, 2 officially and 1 as the acting superintendent. And prior to that, I came into the district as the assistant superintendent to Dr. Balliette, which is where I met most of you when I joined a few Rotary meetings early on. Yeah, so it's hard to believe that it's almost been 4 years already since I've come here, but it's been a pleasure the entire time. A great learning experience, a great professional experience. My own background, I've been in public education. I realized not long ago, I had to admit that it's been it's been exactly 25 years now that I've been in public education. I spent much of my career as a high school social studies teacher. That's where I started in education. And then I became an assistant high school principal. I've been an elementary principal. I've been a director of curriculum, an assistant superintendent, and of course now a superintendent. And those 25 years, boy, they flew by, but what a great life experience. And there's nothing that I feel like I could have done with my time that would have been more worthwhile than being able to give back to my communities, my adopted communities like E-Town, than being able to help care for the children of that community and all of our future as well. Just some personal items about myself. I live with my husband and our 3 dogs up in Lebanon County. That's where I grew up, on a farm not too far from where I live currently, actually. I have a pretty close, tight-knit family. My parents live over in Lidditz with my older sister, and I have a younger sister as well. So the 3 of us often found ourselves, as siblings do, in trouble now and then, and joshing each other a little bit, just like Allie and Dalton were here this morning. That's been a gift as well. Have 3 dogs. I have a stepson as well. So that's just a little bit about me. I enjoy gardening. I enjoy baking. I enjoy hiking. I was a musician throughout high school and college. I was one of the theater kids. So that was kind of my background a little bit, just to give you some insights to me. Love to travel. I've been quite a few places across the world. Rotary is close to my heart, not because I was a Rotary exchange student, unfortunately, but I was an exchange student, and many of my friends, when I did that experience, were Rotary exchange students. We all kind of stuck together. There's some safety in numbers there, but I remember how impressed I was by that program, even at 17 years old. And a lot of my friends in high school were Rotary students from other countries that came to our high school. And I often was that kid making friends with the exchange students that visited. But enough about me and my background. I think you're here to hear a little bit more about what's happening in the district. So I want to share a few highlights with you, but also leave enough time that if you have burning questions, that I can make sure that I answer them for you to the best of my ability. Around our tables, I did drop off a few copies of our annual impact report. I know a lot of you said that you've already received them as residents, but I do know sometimes you have businesses, and if you want to take one of them with you and put that in your business, I think it's a real point of pride for our community, and I want to share a few of those highlights with you here today. Really, at the school district, there's basically 3 buckets of what we try to do there. The first bucket is really academic excellence and supporting students in whatever ways they need. The second bucket is what we refer to as our culture of belonging. And then our third bucket is really trying to ensure that we have efficient operations procedures, that we're fiscally responsible. So it's sort of our efficiency bucket, or our effective operations bucket. So you'll see those three categories highlighted throughout that annual impact report. A few things I wanted to share about in terms of our academic excellence and some of our student supports that I think are worth mentioning. One of our biggest points of pride was that in 2023, the Elizabethtown Area High School was selected by the United States Department of Education for a National Blue Ribbon Award, which in the world of public education is a big deal. That's pretty much the highest designation that you can get as a school district from the federal government. So I had the pleasure of going with our high school principal, Dr. D'Amico, and one of our teachers down to Washington, D.C. to accept that award on behalf of the district from the Secretary of Education in 2023. We do at the district have a 93% graduation rate, which is outstanding. For us, however, as educators, it's never enough. So we're always looking for ways to reach that other 7% and try to help those support those students in making it to the finish line. We have something at the school district known as an Instant Decision Week, and this is a time where we invite college representatives to come into the school district and have on-the-spot interviews with our kids who are interested in applying, and they can get accepted immediately on the spot. And last fall, when we did our Instant Decision Week, first of all, we had the highest number of students participating that we ever had previously, and 97% of them were accepted on the spot, which again is something really to highlight. It's a real testament to the hard work that our students do, how well they represent themselves, and then also they have those qualities of perseverance and hard work and work ethic that a lot of colleges and universities are looking for. But we don't just focus on college as a career pathway or as the only pathway to a career. We are very supportive of our students who want to enter straight into the workforce, who might want to go into a 2-year technical program, who might want to take a gap year to travel or experience life a little bit, or who might want to join the military. We are one of the highest participants in the Lancaster County Career Technology Center program. That's a mouthful. We just typically call it the CTC. Some of you might remember it used to be called the VOTEC. So we have one of the highest participation rates there. We send 125 students to the CTC every year. We also, about 2 years ago, began a national Navy, I wrote it down even to make sure I got it correct, a Navy National Defense Cadet Corps, which is essentially the same as a junior ROTC program. We started that a couple of years ago because we felt we weren't really supporting the pathway towards the military as well as we would have liked to. We feel really good about our post-secondary options for college or tech school or the workforce, but that was an area we wanted to really enhance. So we did bring that program on board a couple of years ago. We currently have 19 students involved in that. They are eligible for all types of awards and scholarships, whether they go into the military for a career or not. But it certainly is a way to expose many of our kids to leadership experience. And if any of you have come to some of our sporting events, especially our football game, you may have even seen our NNDCC students coming out bearing the colors. I know a few of you came to our Veterans Day program. That group was instrumental in helping us plan that and lead that, as well as also presenting the colors at that event as well. So we're really proud of those students in that program and how it's taken off. In terms of some of the ways that we support students, sometimes some of the statistics that are both in the impact report and what I'm going to highlight here may surprise you, but our students, teenagers, they're really struggling. Well, not just teenagers, honestly, all of our students, K to 12, the world is a little bit different place than when a lot of us went to school. And our kids are faced with challenges and information and access to information that many of us never had to deal with when we were their age. And that presents some unique impacts on their learning journeys. So we really try as a school district to support them and to help remove barriers from their learning, whether that be mental health, physical health, emotional health concerns, as well as learning issues or disabilities, behavioral challenges, those kinds of things. But just to give you a few ideas, let me share just a couple of numbers with you. We have a crisis counselor that we partner with some outside organizations on, and last year 250 student crisis interventions took place. Now the good news is that 86% of them were effective in stabilizing the student. So you might say, well, what happened in the other students? Well, we often would have to acquire assistance from an outside provider like an ambulance to take to a hospital or something like that. But 86% of those crises were de-escalated, which is the good news. We have 50 families receiving assistance under the McKinney-Vento Act to address homelessness. We were able to expand our facility dog program. Most recently, our newest dog was Josh at Bainbridge, but we just were notified that our name is at the top of the waiting list for Bear Creek, and I think we're going to be fully dog staffed by the end of this school year. So we're expecting our dog from Bear Creek to be coming this spring. So currently you may be familiar with Murphy at the high school and Colbin at the middle school, Remy's at East High. We have Josh down at Bainbridge, and our new arrival to Bear Creek should be here in another month or so. Lancaster County Magazine recently recognized the school district's Bear Bags program as one of the top 3 nonprofit organizations in the Best of Lancaster County 2023 Reader Survey. So again, I know a few of you have even volunteered and helped with our Bears Bag program. This is a program that helps to address food insecurity. It's run by Dr. Jen Fields, who is our homeschool visitor, and she was also recognized as a WGAL 8 Who Cares Award recipient. So you might have seen her story on the news not that long ago, and they had the recognition program over at the college last November. So lots of good stuff, because barriers to learning can happen in a lot of different ways. So sometimes it can be mental health issues, but sometimes it can be things like homelessness or food insecurity that we really try to do our part to help support kids and families in those things. I mentioned earlier the culture of belonging is one of our buckets. So some of the things we do there is really try to include kids and encourage kids to participate and be engaged in extracurricular programs, sports, athletics, clubs, music, theater. Kids who are engaged in school learn and stay in school. And so by making them feel like they belong, by helping them to find their people or people who have similar interests, is a great hook. And again, I think some of us can reflect back to our days where maybe we didn't always enjoy the academics in every single class that we attended, but perhaps it was that sports activity after school or that competition that we knew was coming up that got us the motivation to get there. And then we learned sometimes in spite of ourselves, right? But kids are social, and that's a really important part of their emotional health and well-being. So having them being engaged in activities, it teaches them important leadership skills, teamwork. It helps provide that sense of belonging that keeps them coming to school. So when you read through the impact report, you'll see how many of our students participate. You'll see some examples of what types of activities we offer in the school district, some of the awards we've won. We have students participating at the local, the state, the district level in all kinds of things, from music to FFA. We have a state bowling champion, in our bowling team, our boys bowling team last year. So it really shows that engagement pays us great dividends down the road. We had 2 students earn and win be nominated for and win Hershey Theater Apollo Awards last year. And we have a number of students who were just nominated again That's for our theater program. So last year we had 2 winners from our production of Mary Poppins, and we're keeping our fingers crossed for those who were nominated for the Arsenic and Old Lace play that was in the fall. This spring, I'll just put in a plug now, the students are working on the Pirates of Penzance for the high school musical, which will be showing at the end of February into the beginning of March. We also create transition programs to support our culture of belonging. And by transition programs, what I'm referring to are the transitions between grade levels and buildings that can be disruptive to student learning. So if you've ever been the new kid in class or the new kid in school, or if you take yourself back, for me, it was junior high. I just think about that first day when you walk in the building and how anxiety producing and worrisome that can be, especially as a teenager or as a young student. So we try to do things in our transition programs to help reduce that anxiety. So we have, for example, a kindergarten orientation where students can come in and see the building and meet their teacher and walk around the hallways before they even come on the first day of school, so that they at least know the lay of the land. That doesn't stop at kindergarten. So we have something similar for second graders going into third grade, because they're changing buildings from either East High and Bainbridge to Bear Creek. We do something similar for our fifth graders going into the middle school, so that they have that opportunity to see the middle school when they go from fifth to sixth. So they go and do some school visits and they get some student-led tours and get to see some of their teachers. And then we also have a similar program from 8th grade to 9th grade. So even though our middle school and high school are connected, it's a challenge for some students to make that shift from the smaller environment to the bigger environment. So we have a program called the Link Crew, which is upperclassmen who mentor and help guide and show around those 9th graders, as well as open houses and other types of tours for them to get acclimated. And the last piece I'll share a little bit about before I open the floor for some general questions, if you have any, is just to talk a little bit about how we try to create efficient operations in the district. We are very mindful of the support we get from the community in the form of taxes. I mean, you are our tax base, you are our revenue. For the most part, we do get a little bit of money from the, and I say that loosely, a little bit of money. We get some money from the federal and the state government, but we do rely heavily on the local tax base. And it's important that you know how we're using that money, some of which I just described on some of the things our kids are doing. You can be rest assured in knowing that you have a very experienced and well-trained faculty and administration. 68% of our faculty and 83% of our administration have 10 or more years of experience in the field of education. We also have a pretty good track rate when it comes to turnover, which is a challenge right now because there is a public teacher shortage, and that could become a crisis within the next few years. So we really try our best to retain the faculty, the staff, the administration that we've already secured, because they're getting hard to come by at the moment. We do have a budget preparation and approval process that carefully reviews all of our sources of revenue and expenditures. Our per pupil spending, just to give you an example, is, and this will sound like a lot, but just hear me out here. In the district, our per pupil spending is approximately $16,986. The Lancaster County average is $20,460, and the state average is $20,830. So we're significantly below those averages, and I don't interpret that as skimping on the quality of the education that they're receiving. I mean, look at what Allie and Dalton just showed you, right? What I think it is an emphasis on fiscal responsibility, that we really take our responsibility seriously to look at all of our expenses and to weigh our choices carefully so that we're getting the most bang for our buck. So I just wanted you to be familiar with some of those things. We also develop consistent maintenance and repair and replacement cycles to try to stagger that out so that there aren't too many projects at one time. If you've been following in the news, in the newspaper, or at our board meetings, you know that there is a significant cloud hanging over our high school and middle school complex right now, because its lifespan has exceeded incremental maintenance. So we're at a point where every time we're trying to fix something, something else is is defaulting or breaking. And so it's a constant, plugging the holes here, 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 here. We're just kind of keeping our fingers crossed that we can keep up with that, or that we can come up with a long-term solution in collaboration with our board and community on when and how to best address that problem, because construction is super expensive, and the learning environment for our students can get disrupted very, very easily anytime you do renovations, a new build, a rebuild, demolition. You can imagine what kind of an environment that is. So that is a major challenge that this community and the board and the district are going to have to work together on as soon as possible. The expiration date on that facility has gone by the wayside some time ago. So you will hear us talking a lot about contingency plans, financial planning, getting architect opinions. Recently, the board just approved a second facility study to get another perspective on what our options might be. So stay tuned for more on that, but I do want to just be really transparent about where we are with that. So at this point, and I do, of course, want to celebrate the new field house and the athletic turf field that we were able to put in last fall. I think it's really enhanced our extracurricular programming and provided some opportunities for our students, as well as the district, for some to generate some revenue by using it with outside groups when our kids aren't using it. So there's some untapped opportunities there as well. So I'm going to pause there because I know that my time is somewhat limited just in terms of keeping your meeting moving along, but I did want to stop in time to answer any questions that you all might have about the district and what we do there. Yes?
What is the number of students in your district?
So across the district, we have approximately roughly 3,600. So between 35 and 3,600, and each class of students varies in size from around 350 down to like 280-ish. That varies a little bit year to year. We are seeing an overall decline in enrollment, and some of that just mirrors national demographic changes. Families are having fewer kids on average, or they're waiting till they're a little bit older as parents to have kids. So we're starting to see some of that impact coming into the school, as well as parents have many choices and opportunities to take their children to private schools, to religious schools, to charter schools, to home schools. So there's a little bit more competition with public schools than perhaps there used to be. So we are seeing our numbers declining just slightly, and they are projected to continue doing so over the next 5 years or so. Yeah.
A number of weeks ago, we were at board meeting, and you gave a very dramatic, helpful, hard-nosed, pointed talk about bullying in the school, and how damaging it is, and how it needs to be addressed, and how you're aware of it and all. And I can imagine for administrators and teachers, I mean, there's a whole spectrum of what is bullying and what isn't. It's just, it would seem to me to be extremely hard to navigate through all of that and to provide a safe place when some kids are just so stressed they bully. So could you say anything about how hard that is and what are the
it's a very, very serious concern. I think as a society, we are challenged with an epidemic of bullying across the board. I think we need to really ask ourselves what types of role models we want our children to see. So as adults, when we're interacting with people we disagree with or have differences of opinion with, how are we carrying ourselves? How are we speaking to them? Are we demonstrating kindness and love and respect even in times of conflict? Because kids are watching, and they are really smart. And even if you think they aren't watching, they're watching everything that you do. So that's, I think, one level. Then you add to that social media. So many of us, again, I won't make any of us age ourselves, but we grew up in a time before social media and before cell phones. Bullying is not new. That is a fact. I hear a lot of people sometimes push back and say, well, bullying's not new. No, it's not. I think all of us can probably think of times growing up where we either experienced or witnessed, hopefully didn't participate, in bullying. But social media didn't exist and cell phones didn't exist. And if something embarrassing happened to you, someone pulled your chair out at lunch and you fell over, it was embarrassing for a day or two, and then it was over. It wasn't filmed and replayed again and again and again and again at your expense. Then you add on top of it the complications that technology has added with things like artificial intelligence. And perhaps you're familiar with what happened at Lancaster Country Day not that long ago, where a student used artificial intelligence to create fake but highly inappropriate and embarrassing pictures of his female classmates. This is something we can't fix by ourselves as public school officials. We need help from parents, from community members, from local religious organizations, and from lawmakers as well. I don't quite know what the answer is, but I know that social media and cyberbullying have made our jobs in the school system incredibly difficult. Because believe it or not, most of the bullying actually starts outside of school. It happens on the weekends. It happens on the evenings. It happens over the cell phones. And so the kids then bring it into school for some of them because it's a safe place where they can ask an adult for help. And for others, because it just explodes and overflows in the lunchroom and they need a way to release that pressure, that anxiety, that fear that it's causing. When we are aware that bullying is happening, we have a no tolerance policy for it. We will investigate it. There are progressive disciplinary consequences. In the most severe cases, certainly that can lead to suspension and expulsion. We try when we can to use it as a learning opportunity for the more minor infractions and emphasize that culture of belonging and empathy and kindness and compassion for others. But this is a real struggle because it severely disrupts what our kids are doing. It makes them feel unsafe. Some of them don't want to come to school because they feel like they're going to be targeted because they're different, because they look different or they act different or they have a different set of values or behaviors. So it's one that I'm not willing to give up on, but it's also one where we're starting to come up at a loss for how to manage all the complexities that are involved with it. Yeah, Debbie.
You see on Facebook somebody say that their child was bullied and so forth, and the school's doing nothing about it, and see that as a way whether that's their perception or not. But it goes back to what you said of being kind and so forth. The school's not the parent.
Correct.
And I think so much of it has to go back to the household of that bully, if you would.
Yeah.
And that's hard to combat on social media.
It is.
Bashing. They're not doing anything. They're not doing my granddaughter. But that's hard. How do you even deal with that when you try to tell somebody to be a parent?
Well, I can't really say that. You all can. I think Facebook and social media, it offers a very different kind of challenge to us in the school district for exactly what you're describing. It has become an outlet, not just for bullying among kids, although I don't think they really use Facebook anymore. I think only those of us of a certain age use Facebook. But it becomes a source of misinformation often about what the school is or isn't doing. So I think one of the things you all can help us with is when you see things like that, if you don't want to engage in it online, I completely understand that. I try to avoid that myself. But call us. If you see something online that sounds strange, like the school is doing blank and no one cares or no one did anything about that, just call us, email us, Ask, I saw this. Is this true? I'm looking for more information. We will be happy to help you. I think sometimes people also confuse an answer that is different than their preferred answer with no or not doing anything. So I think it's really important to keep that perspective too. Sometimes people will vent on social media because they didn't get the answer they wanted, not because the school didn't do anything. And the last piece I'll just put out there for your information, I know a lot of times there's frustration when the school can't talk about things. We are not permitted to talk about individual students, individual outcomes, individual discipline consequences, individual teacher personnel issues, things like that. So we hear the complaint, we address the complaint, we investigate the complaint, but we can't then make a public announcement that, this is what happened to this student. So we do ask for a little bit of trust there between the community and the school. And I realize that some of that has been broken over the years, particularly since COVID. I know that kind of opened up a whole can of worms and uncertainty and doubt and questioning about the school and its role and its approach and some other things there. We're trying really hard to rebuild that. And the best way to rebuild that is by having honest, direct, and transparent conversations respectfully, kindly, and with facts, not spinning out of control on social media. So please email me at the school, call me at the school, any of my administrative team. We are happy to help dispel that rumor mill as quickly as possible, because that also benefits our kids. When they see parents upset and arguing or saying things about the school, or the kids hear that, they see that, and it carries into the school buildings as well.
Maybe John, you can be paid to offset all the negative. John likes to.
I like to cross swords on occasion.
Oh, I try to avoid it.
Explain what the difference is between seen and saw and people's posts.
Yeah.
No,
It's, I manage the West Ottawa Township.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is locked down. There's only one person that can post it.
Yeah.
That's me. Because the comments that we would start to get back, and it became a giant time suck to try and deal with people in the comment section because they didn't like what they heard.
Yeah.
So for us, the Facebook page became, this is the way we're going to communicate with. This is not an interactive. Because I've had residents say, I'm just going to blow you up on your Facebook page. Go for it. It's long. Have fun.
Well, and actually, that's exactly what we decided to do as well.
Because
Yeah.
it became kind of it brought out the animal spirits or the worship of people, and it was
Yeah, so you may have noticed that if you follow our district Facebook page, we put out a message to the community and we had our board's support on it. We were all on the same page. Our Facebook comments were being taken over either by this sort of argumentativeness, misinformation, or frankly, even like bots and trolls who don't even live in E-Town, who were jumping in there and putting in ads and nastiness. And so we had a conversation about it, and we shared with our board like that we would want to do something similar. So starting in January, once we came back from the holidays, we turned off the comments on the district Facebook. So for that exact reason. Now, I know that doesn't shut down other community Facebook pages. We're not trying to restrict free speech or anything like that, but we also can't censor one and not another. So if someone goes on there and makes a post that's really hateful or inappropriate, we can't take that off. So it was better just to take them all off for the safety of our kids and the sanity of our faculty and administration. So again, I would just encourage you, if you're looking for factual information, start with our website, but also call, email, approach us at events like this. We are happy to help. We love to talk about our kids. We love to talk about our programs. We love to get the facts out there because I think that also helps to reassure and calm fears and build trust, which is really what we are trying to do. Any other questions? I know we're just about out of time.
One more.
Yes.
When is the anticipated decision on the building, on repair or build.
Yeah.
What is that supposed to be?
So that's still a little bit up in the air. For those of you who do follow along, last fall in September, Crabtree, Rohrbach and Associates, a local architect, presented their facility study to the board with several different options. They spent about 9 months analyzing all of our buildings, including the high school, middle school, and district office. They gave an assessment, and then they showed the board 4 different options that they could consider. The first option is always do nothing, right? So that option is there, but we're not going to spend time talking about it. Another option was to renovate what is existing. The third option was to completely rebuild. And one of the possibilities that was out there was looking at the property that the fair is on. I mean, again, just being transparent, no decisions have been made, but that was part of the conversation. And then the fourth option was some combination of renovate and rebuild, where maybe part of the building is kept, part of the building is rebuilt, some combination. The short version of that story is the price range for those 3 options, because the fourth option really was not really an option, is anywhere between $150 and $175 million. That is the going rate. What has been troubling, and this is no one's fault, it's the result of a combination of the pandemic and inflation, and those of you who are involved in construction or tried to do construction in your own home probably are aware of this. The last time the district got a quote on doing something at the high school and middle school, it was pre-pandemic. It was around $90 million, which is still an incredible amount of money. But you can see in less than a 10-year span, that price has now doubled. So that puts the board and the district in a really tough spot because our district relies heavily on local taxpayers. We do not have the same source of local business income for our tax base as some other districts do to offset what each household pays. So that really makes some tough choices coming up. So at the moment, the board didn't make a decision about that yet. But what they did want to do was get a second opinion. They weren't entirely satisfied with the first opinion, and they thought for a decision this big, it would be wise to get more information. So just at our board meeting this past Tuesday, our board authorized a second facility study. This one will be done by RLPS, which is an architectural firm located over in Manheim Township. And they will begin studying. This time they won't do the whole district. They're just going to focus on the high school, middle school district office complex. They're well aware of the board and the community's concerns about how much this could cost, and they're trying to develop some creative options. But to do that, they have to really look at the quality of the facility itself. So right now they're doing that research, you know, climbing on the roof, going in the tunnel, looking at the sewer, all that kind of good stuff to come up with their assessment of what the board's options are. So at this point, to answer your question, Debbie, no decisions have been made whatsoever. They anticipate that facility study will take at least 6 months, but could take up to 9. So I'm guessing we might hear back from them August, September-ish. If we hear before then, that will be a bonus. But then the board will have to have another conversation about what steps they want to do next. We have had a few presentations about preparing financially for something like that, that the board has had to chew on and consider. Because again, it really relies heavily on the local tax base to raise the revenue to make a renovation or a rebuild, whichever choice the board ends up deciding. Yes, Steve.
Help is on the way. I know you have such an amazing handle on such a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really a team effort. I have a fantastic group of faculty and administrators that I get the privilege of working with every day. And even better than that, we have amazing, talented, and intelligent, and kind kids that I get to see and cheer for and watch all throughout our district. So thank you all for your part in sending those kids to us and raising them right and supporting what we do. And thank you again for having me speak today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Karen.